But what I get out of that dream was it was nothing attacking. I think it was my own projecting on my own kind of fear and blockage and blocks I have in my life. So I kind of was facing my own fears in a way, facing my own darkness.
Yeah,
But since I'm doing shadow work so much, it's more easy to face your own fears. I'm not running away. I'm
exactly.
facing it straight on. So,
Hmm.
but I also was dreaming something else this night, but I can't remember what it was.
That full moon, I think it's already passed, but yeah,
Yeah,
the dreams are
probably.
so interesting.
Yeah, and it started after I met those beings, those small
Mm-hmm.
couple of days ago. Yeah,
Hmm.
Tuesday. Yes, I think it's. I think it has nothing wrong to doing with them, but I think that triggers something in my system, maybe to release some blocks or energies, and actually frequencies starting to come up to the surface. And that's I know why usually works a lot when I sleep in my dreams. So that's probably the reason.
Well, and you did have that awareness just now when you were
Yeah.
talking about your dream and saying that, it's could be like your kind of the darker side of you, right? Sort of coming out as a projection in your dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
I mean, it's how we work out stuff anyway, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's not always in the daytime when we're awake, if you want to call it that,
Mm, yeah.
and actively doing shadow work. I mean, we
Mm,
also do that work in our dreams, and but it just looks differently. It looks different,
yeah. Well, I
right?
have been facing my own, let's call it demons or the darkness
Hmm.
in myself, especially the first time I had the Dark Night of the Soul. And that was
Hmm.
actually terrifying. And I was very exhausted at the end. So, but I managed to fight it and I won. And this was kind of felt the same, but the the tension in it and the darkness, it was nothing compared to the first time. Now I had control. I just de-escalated the situation and just
Yeah.
removed the blocks. So it was totally different, but I could feel the darkness trying to scare or the blocks in me trying to overtake me, but no, it couldn't do it because I have more knowledge now, I'm more wisdom, and I'm more awake. So I, instead of running away or screaming at it or fight it, I just faced it directly. Same thing I did the first time when I had this Dark Night of the Soul, but
Well,
it was different because it's many years ago. So
so as you're talking about this, like before you, yeah, actually before you start talking about the darkness, and you were telling me about your dream, I had this thought, and and usually when I'm talking to you, it's just because I'm channeling all this stuff.
mm,
But here's my thought on it. For myself,
yeah,
I'm I think I've come to the realization that what I perceive as darkness is actually myself. It's
yeah,
actually the other side of myself,
yeah,
because I'm not all light. I am light, but I'm not all light. I'm
mm,
also the other side of it,
yeah. We all
right? And
are.
so, yeah, like when all that sort of dark stuff has come up in my own lifetime, like I don't, and I'm just kind of remembering back to my own dark night of the soul, that experience that I'll tell people about sometime. Um, I thought it was something coming at me from somewhere else, something else. But now, like at this point of like where I am in my awakening, I kind of feel like it was part of me. Does
Mm,
that make sense?
yeah, this makes sense. Totally
It's part
understand.
of me, that it's a dark side of me that I had to conquer,
Yeah,
like where my biggest fears were. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that's
And
pretty deep.
what you have to fears, no, what you have to face sometimes, could really be one of the darkest things, one of the biggest obstacles you might be experiencing is to face your own fears, face your own darkness. Those are the absolutely biggest obstacles you can actually face.
Yeah, and you probably can't even imagine, like, what you can conjure up in your own consciousness that
Yeah,
is actually dark, because I have
absolutely.
done it, and it is scary as shit. Like, it
Yeah,
is so scary.
I
Like,
I remember.
you're capable of, like, so many, like, amazing light things and amazing, uh, experiences of consciousness,
Yeah.
but you're also capable of the other flip side of the coin. Like, you
Mm.
can go to some dark places, any human can, right?
Oh
It's like,
yes, yeah, yeah,
where do you choose to go? And I think
yeah.
maybe I had to tap into that dark stuff to be able to then experience the light side of me. I don't know.
Um,
It's yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
I remember the
Yeah.
first time I was facing the dark night of the soul. I was facing my own fears, the darkness. I was it actually was so bad, so I was scared of the fear itself. You know, the
Right.
when you are starting to be scared of the fear itself, it's starting to.
Like a density that's almost like an actual person or a thing,
Yeah.
right? But it's
So I
yeah.
was having trouble sleeping for 6, 7, maybe 8, 9 months. And at the end, I was so exhausted. I was totally out of it. I didn't even to sleep maybe 30 minutes or an hour. That happened for several months. But at the end, I found out, okay, I had enough. So I sat down and I was, in my mind, I was thinking my fear or the darkness I was facing was kind of a being I could talk to. And I sat down in my bed and I said to this darkness that, okay, I am actually giving up. I'm fed up. So give me everything you have, absolutely everything. Just pour it on me, everything, because enough
You're
is
ready to face it.
yeah, enough is enough. I am ready to face it. And what's happened in that seconds, I just felt the darkness. It was kind of starting to dissolve itself,
Mm,
and the fear starting to dissolve itself.
mhm,
And in a matter of few seconds, maybe a minute, it was all gone. And I just thought to myself, okay, what happened now?
mhm,
And now I could start to feel a small happiness. I could feel myself again. I haven't been
mm.
felt that for many months. But of
So tell
course, I was so tired, so I just I was dropped down and I slept for so many hours. I haven't done for over so many months. But
so I have a question about that.
yeah,
Is, when you said that you were having trouble sleeping for 8 or 9 months,
yeah.
what was that all about? Like, why were you having trouble sleeping? What
I
was
was actually afraid to sleep, to go to sleep.
why?
I didn't know why, because I didn't understand why I am afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid I didn't get enough sleep because I was probably going to be tired the next day. I couldn't do my chores and all the stuff. But what I found out after I have faced my fear, I understand that the fear itself, mostly part of the most of it, some of it was my own, some of it was not. So the fear itself, who was not in my own system or come from me personally, it was from someone else from my family, like my
Mm,
parents. So, but since it was not my own, the system, like the system in a human being or the mind, is always trying to create some
right,
scenario,
make sense out of it.
yeah, to make sense of it, to actually, when it's there, you have to make in a sense in some way, because it's already in your system.
Mm,
But when I started to disconnect from it, and I understood that I also was very sensitive to energy, so I picked up energies and feelings from other persons. And that's also when I got this Shannon's message that there is not all thoughts and feelings that are your own.
Right. You're tapping because you're sensitive, right? And
Yes,
an empath is.
yes,
You're
you're tapping into other
you're
people's frequency.
how I see it is you have a field and then
Yeah,
everything is beyond your field. There is actually a border to your field, but where that border is touching the collective consciousness or somebody else's field, if you're
yeah,
close to someone, that's what you're feeling,
yeah.
right? And if
But
you're not clear about what is mine and what is not mine, you can accept all of that stuff as that's mine. You can
yeah,
get I was like very depressed for a lot of my life, my younger life, and I didn't really know why, but now I know.
yeah. Now
It
you
really
know.
wasn't me, you
No.
know, because I'm not a
Um,
depressed person.
so when I understood that not all my feelings and not all my thoughts are my own, that
Mm,
I understood why I had this dark night of the soul,
mm.
because I kind of needed to see and face the fear that the fear itself is actually not dangerous. It's not actually nothing. It's just a feeling.
It's just a frequency, like
Yes,
every
just a frequency.
frequency.
Yeah, and most of it was even not my own. It belonged belongs to my parents, because
Yeah,
every child gets things from the parents when I grew
sure.
up. Everyone does in some way or another. You do so, and of course I had fear myself, but it was like night and day after that night when I realized, when I started to. But I had to
Yeah.
face it. I had to actually wanted to face the fear and kind of give up. But at the
You had to
same time,
see it for what it
I
is, like
want to
totally
see you.
surrender to it. Otherwise, you could choose to die.
Yeah,
Really, I mean, that's where we are, right? Like you could
yeah,
choose
yeah,
to die in that moment. That's a dark night of the soul. That's a
yeah,
huge
yeah.
spiritual awakening.
And I really also wanted to.
Yeah,
I
the
wanted to
only other way out of
see
it.
the. I wanted to see the. I wanted to see the fear. I want to face it. I want to look it right into its eyes.
Hmm.
And that's when it started to dissolve, because I wasn't scared of it anymore. I was kind of giving up. I don't care about what the fear of the
Mm.
darkness was doing. And that's when the illusion, that's it actually is an illusion. And that's when it started to dissolve. So, and it's
Mhm.
turned my life completely.
I was thinking about that this morning, and like I know it was in 2010 or 2009 or 2000. It was two. It was 2010
Yeah,
when I had my big like spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul event,
yeah,
and like I remember making a deal with God, the universe, whatever. I mean, I was lying in the back of an ambulance and I was totally convinced that I'm going to die today. I'm going to have to say goodbye to my kids.
hmm,
And I remember having this conversation with with God, and I said, "If you get me through this, I'm going to find a way to leave my husband. I'm going to find a way to make my life about me. I'm going to find a way to be better. I'm going to
hmm,
find a way to be okay."
that's powerful.
I remember having that conversation. If you do this, get me through this. I'm not, I don't want to die today.
Hmm,
Wow. That was huge.
that was huge.
That was huge. Like
Hmm,
I was very, very sick and I had been to the
hmm,
hospital a few times, but that time I thought,
hmm,
I'm done. Like I'm
hmm.
gonna die today.
Yeah,
Mm,
but you didn't.
I didn't.
No,
I didn't.
you are still here, more strong than ever.
Man, has my life ever changed.
Yeah. Sometimes we need to go so deep down in our own reality to actually wake up,
Yeah.
from the sleep.
I was so scared. Like, I'm just reflecting on like where I was at that time. I was such a different person. I was so scared of, I didn't know who I was. Like, I don't know. I saw myself as a million pieces on the floor. I didn't know which one was me, or like how to put the pieces together to actually make me. Like, who am I, right? And
Yeah.
I was in a very, very bad situation, like a very, very toxic, difficult relationship.
Mm.
And and I just didn't know how to get out. Like, I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know, what to do. I didn't know, like, I was totally isolated at that point from anybody, family, friends, whatever. Like, oof,
Mm.
it was wild. And I was on like how many medications? Look, I was on antidepressants for 17 years. I was on antidepressants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had, well, I had arthritis, so I was taking something for that. I had
Mm.
asthma, so I was taking something for that. Um, yeah, I had all these medical issues.
Mm.
But you know what? Like, I don't have any of it. Like, I'm off. When I, after that spiritual awakening, it wasn't the next day, mind you, but like, I mean, it started to do the work, right?
Yes, it was awakening. So
But like, off the antidepressants long time ago, like right after that. No more medications for, there's nothing. I don't have asthma. I don't have arthritis. I have nothing.
mm. That's a very big step to do. And what's also I really liked about the story that you actually asked for help
I did.
and you were also open for help, because
I
we will always get help, but we have to ask for help.
I feel like you just have to be like you were, right? At that point where you're so vulnerable, it's like I
Yeah,
have nothing left.
yeah,
Like, I have nothing
exactly.
left. Either I'm going to die or I'm going to live. Today I'm
Yeah,
choosing to live. So what is it? I
I
I'm doing it.
I kind of felt the same in my situation.
Yeah.
So I totally understand your experience.
It was
So,
huge.
but
But I
it's
mean,
a real game changer
it
when you
was a
do
game
when you do
changer.
that step.
Yeah, it was a game changer. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, there was still a lot of work to do. As
Oh
you
yes.
know, like, once I got physically well, then of course, like, I was always like curious about, well, very interested in metaphysics, like, just, yeah, I just saw myself as quite intuitive. And I I felt deeply, so I knew I was an empath, although I didn't even know what that word was.
Yeah.
And so I started with the Reiki, like so many of us do. I know you
Oh
did
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
Same.
so I was like, and then I kind of was like using the Reiki and using um um like scrying, like using a pendulum, right,
Yeah.
to get answers. And I
I
would
did the
talk
same.
to my guides, right? And but I was looking now for, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this relationship? How is it going to happen? When is it going to happen, right? I was still looking outside of me.
Yeah.
And that was what precipitated this dark night of the soul.
Mm.
So yeah, that dark
Absolutely.
night of the soul thing where I was like, we were like sleeping in different bedrooms. Like, it was just like, just a matter of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We had two dogs. One dog was with him, one dog was with me.
Okay.
And so I went to bed that night. And oh yeah, I had been like using my pendulum, and it's like, how am I going to get out of this? Like, he was like not a well person. So he was always saying, I'm going to die soon. Oh my gosh. I said, is he going to die tonight? Right? Give me an answer. It would be so easy. That's terrible to say, but it would be so easy, right? Anyway, so I went to sleep and I woke up. I don't know. I think I forgot to turn a light off or something. And I kind of woke up, and I was just kind of aware of something around me, like a sense of a feeling of something around me, which was really weird.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the TV was on, and I thought I had turned it off, so I turned it off. And then I looked at the phone, and it was like, you know, when somebody calls on those old phones and it lights up green and the number,
Yeah.
right? Well, I looked at the phone and it lit up and it was all zeros, and then it went black. I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's weird. I was just kind of sitting there, and then all of a sudden I felt this energy like coming at me from like my left and just above me. It's like coming down, and I'm like, oh, what is that? And I felt actually paralyzed, and I could not, I honestly, I could not move. And I was kind of getting scared, and I'm looking like my eyes, like I could see through my periphery. I could see my dog, and the dog was like shaking, sleeping and shaking.
Yeah.
And I could feel this thing coming at me, right? And I thought, oh my God, it's coming at me. It's coming in me. I knew it was going to go in me.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of bracing myself, right? And the next thing I knew, it just like cut like a knife cutting through butter. It just was in me.
Mm.
And I was like, oh God, right? And then I was honest, I was panicking. And then I started to like,
Yeah,
okay, find your breath.
understandable.
I'm breathing. Okay, I'm breathing. I'm not dead. I'm not dead. And I thought, this is it, man. I'm going to die today. And then I had this vision in my third eye of a man, really weird, a man, like
Yeah.
white skin, dark black hair, and then beside him a lion's face.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. And I thought, what? My dad had passed by then. I thought, Dad? No, not my dad. You know, and a lion's face. And I heard, can you hear me now? Because I was asking with my pendulum. You're not giving me the answer. Just tell me. I can't hear you. Tell me.
Yeah.
Speak. And then I just kind of like, you know what I
It's
mean?
relate. Yeah.
"Eh, can you hear me now?" And I said in my mind, yes, I can hear you now. And I said, get off me. No, it was like inside me. And then finally, like I tried to scream, and there was like no sound coming out. And I mean, it was absolute terror. And finally, I screamed to this thing. I said, leave me now, like screamed to the top of my lungs, like I had never screamed in my life. And it
Yeah.
just immediately moved out of my body, but it stayed right there. It was right
Yeah.
there. Like, okay, all right, I can breathe.
It had to obey.
It had, right.
Yes.
It had to. It had
Because
to.
you took your
Right?
own
Like
power
I
back.
totally found my sovereignty.
Yes.
I totally found my
And
sovereignty.
that's the whole point, because
Yeah,
they
like it had to obey. So it
they
stayed
had to
there.
obey.
And I was like, okay, well, you don't want to really leave. You just want to hang around, but I know you're not going to go in my body again. So I tried to like calm down, and then I thought I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I looked at I had a wall right there, and scrolling up the wall was like, it was like symbols. It was like going so fast. It was like a scroll of symbols, different symbols, different symbols, different symbols.
Oh.
And I thought, are those like Egyptian symbols? No, they're not. No, they're not like it was. I couldn't even. I thought I want to remember some of this stuff to write it down. I couldn't. It was so fast. It was just like a computer of,
Yeah.
you know, all of these symbols coming up. And then I mean, finally, I fell asleep. I don't know. It was the strangest night. I woke up in the morning. I couldn't even talk. My throat was so sore from screaming.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Screaming with no sound. And I knew it was real. But that was my dark night of the soul. I mean, after that, it was like a game changer. I'm like, okay,
Yeah. That's
okay, this
it's
is
a
real.
big difference before and after.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this is not a game.
No.
And as much as there is light and fun stuff, I mean, beware of what you're accessing when you're in the field. Beware of your thoughts. Beware of your beliefs. Beware of what you say. Words matter. Everything carries frequency, and
Oh, yes.
you know you have to be responsible with what you're able to access. And it's
Yeah.
not everybody who's alive now who's meant to do these kinds of things, right? Meant to be a starseed or, a starseed, earthseed light worker. But those of us that are doing this work, that are called to it,
Yeah.
there's a huge responsibility there.
Oh yes.
Mm.
But when this was over and you started to have a little bit distance to that dark night of the soul, did you feel any fear or something similar coming back, or was it just completely gone?
It was gone.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it was gone. Like I felt like I had faced it,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized like what I needed to do to, I don't know, it was just it was such an awakening moment that I didn't even have a clear concept. I couldn't grasp it in the moment, how big of a moment it was. But I completely understood in that moment about sovereignty. I didn't even know the word, but I knew what it was.
No.
And
Yeah.
I knew what that meant inside of me.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it never came back. And I was never afraid again. And
No.
I never disrespected, disrespected
Mm.
the quantum field
Yeah.
the way I did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saying,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me, why aren't you speaking to me? I'm talking to you. You better answer me." Right? Like,
Yeah.
what?
You
Okay.
you're
Well,
asking for it.
if that's what you're asking for, that's what you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
You always get an answer. Crazy thing is that I was facing the fear, the darkness in so many ways, and at that very uh, strong level, especially the first time. And today, I am actually working to get rid of darkness, to get rid of dark entities and all those beings that are not supposed to be around the person or places. So I'm actually, my first experience has made me into what I'm doing now, to actually, in a way, fight the darkness, but I use the light.
Mhm,
So it was a reason I had to experience those things
mhm.
to understand the fear. Because if you're going to work in those frequencies, you have to understand the fear. So
Yeah.
that's part of one of my things in life.